Welcome back, dear friends! Since humans set foot on the earth, they have brought war upon themselves. From wars fought with sticks and stones to the present day, where they wage war with atomic and hydrogen bombs and lasers. Since the dawn of intellect, instead of befriending each other, humans engaged in war and conflict, causing unimaginable devastation. It is estimated that over 1 billion people have been killed in human conflicts throughout history. The New York Times reported that, in the 20th century alone, 108 million people were killed in wars. As technology advanced, wars also changed, and weapons became more deadly and destructive. Although we cannot compare all these wars, join us as we compare two of the greatest wars in human history for you. First, let's turn to World War I, a war known by names such as the Great War and the War to End All Wars. European governments initiated World War I, which engulfed the entire world for 4 years between 1914 and 1918. In this war, the German Empire, the Ottoman Empire, Austria-Hungary, and the Kingdom of Bulgaria were allies known as the Central Powers. While the allies consisted of Britain, Russia, France, Serbia, Montenegro, Belgium, Japan, Portugal, Romania, and, in the final 2 years of the war, the United States. World War I was one of the greatest wars in human history. And statistics indicate that 10 million military personnel and 10 million civilians were killed in this war. However, these numbers are official figures, and the actual casualties were much higher. When this war began, it was said to be a war to end all wars. The war came to an end, and Germany was defeated. But the wounds of war did not heal. Germany began to strengthen itself for another war. After 21 years of the end of World War I, Germany annexed Poland in a lightning-fast attack, igniting World War II, which lasted for 6 years, engulfing the world in bloodshed and destruction. This was the largest and deadliest war in human history, which, just like the previous war, had two groups, the Allies and the Axis powers. The Axis powers consisted of Nazi Germany, the Empire of Japan, and the Kingdom of Italy, while the Allies included the Soviet Union, the United States, Britain, the Republic of China, and France. In this war, 15 million military personnel and 45 million civilians were killed, with an additional 25 million being wounded or disabled. Now let's compare these two wars in another aspect. In World War I, each soldier was given a rifle, a bayonet, and 3 grenades. The grenades of that time were primitive and simple. For example, you would take a tin can, fill it with sharp iron pieces and gunpowder. Those were the grenades of that time. The British introduced tanks for the first time in World War I. On the other side, the Germans introduced machine guns and had 6 machine gunners in each unit. Other countries quickly developed their own machine guns, and each Russian unit was equipped with 8 machine gunners, while British units had only 2. Throughout this war, military industries rapidly advanced, and everyone tried to create newer and more destructive weapons. It didn't take long for different types of balls to be made, and ball factories became the most important element of this war, because they could shoot from a distance. World War I was an experiment to test different weapons. with something new being tested every day. One day it was flamethrowers, the next day it was various chemical gases. But in World War II, everything was different. Everything had become more advanced and new ideas were invented to kill humans. Germany armed itself to the teeth to take revenge for their defeat in the First War. In this war, machine guns became lighter, anti-aircraft weapons became more advanced to fight against new airplanes, and ships were equipped with guided missiles. RPGs were also equipped to fight against tanks. Germany introduced the Fritz X, a guided anti-ship bomb. The Germans also unleashed deadly submarines into the waters, solely targeting American ships. In the early stages of the war, the Germans were making significant advancements in creating a new weapon every day. After the deadly submarines, they created the Panther tank. The tank became the most crucial element in Germany's lightning victories. However, the war eventually came to a disastrous end, and at the time, the United States dropped an atomic bomb and was forced to use it again in Japan. After Germany's defeat, Japan refused to surrender and was plotting to eliminate China and America. When the first atomic bomb was dropped on Japan, the US sent a message to surrender, to which they replied, "Why should we surrender?" The US then said, "Didn't you see the bomb?" "I'll drop another one," the Japanese replied. "If you're telling the truth, then do it." And the US dropped the second bomb, and Japan surrendered. Now let's go back to World War I and take a look at their medical services. This is an ambulance from World War I. It has space for 2 injured soldiers. They would put the soldiers in this ambulance and host them at a train station. Then, without giving them water or food or treating their wounds, they would put them on a train and take them to the nearest city with a hospital. When World War I started, doctors didn't have much skill in surgery, sewing, or amputating. But this war led to significant progress in medicine. They were overwhelmed with injured soldiers, so they practiced and tried to keep them alive. By the end of the war, medicine had made significant advancements, and more injured soldiers survived compared to the beginning of the war. For example, in the early stages of the war, when a leg was shot, they would usually amputate it, saying that if they didn't, the injured person would surely die. But towards the end of the war, they would bring the injured leg, disinfect it, and treat it with care. If you remember, in the beginning of World War I, injured soldiers were transported with horse-drawn carriages. But by the end of the war, ambulances had been developed. Doctors learned how to properly sanitize and anesthetize patients during surgery. This progress continued into World War II, where all countries involved had prepared themselves medically. However, the number of casualties was overwhelming, and it was during this time that professional nurses came to the forefront, learning how to properly care for and treat injured soldiers. This was a significant transformation in the field of medicine during World War II. Now, let's take a quick look at the aftermath of these two wars. After World War I, communism rose to power in Russia. According to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was condemned to pay $31.5 billion in war reparations to other countries. The Austro-Hungarian Empire fell apart, as did the Ottoman Empire, and a major recession hit America. But what happened at the end of World War II? The economy of Europe collapsed entirely. All infrastructures of European countries were destroyed. Germany was divided into two parts, with half under communist rule and under the control of the Soviet Union, and the other half under the control of the United States. Hitler and most of his associates committed suicide. However, many Nazis were arrested and put on trial at the Nuremberg trials, where they were sentenced to life imprisonment. When this war ended, the victors formed an organization that became known as the League of Nations, which later changed its name to the United Nations. The end of this war also transformed the East. The Japanese Empire, which had been the dominant power in East Asia and the Pacific, was defeated and destroyed. After these two wars, humanity did not learn its lesson and is still pursuing weapons of mass destruction. Every day, new things are created that we are not aware of because they are kept secret. If World War III were to happen, as Einstein said, the world would go back to the Stone Age, and World War IV would be fought with sticks and stones. But I must say that these two wars caused tremendous changes on Earth, and it is impossible to describe all of them in a short video. Here's to hoping for peace, friendship, and a world without war.